In today's episode, we are going to be looking at the New York Knicks, the value of a bunch of their young players moving forward. Michael Bolton, he wants to hear about it.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Go to BuiltBar.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON for $10 off your first order. Today, we are looking at your New York Knickerbockers, looking at the dynasty value of a bunch of players on their teams. No, not all of the old, useless power forwards and centers that they signed. The younger guys, what we can expect from them moving forward. So let's get stuck into that. And of course, we're going to start with the guy that has been dicked around all season.
And Mitch Robinson says, I'll take it from here.
Unfortunately, Mitch did not take it from here this season. There was always concerns with Mitch Robinson heading into this season. We saw big numbers to end last year, 30 minutes a game, huge block numbers, but there was always concerns. What would the worst coach in the NBA, David Fizdale, do? And when you've got an option to choose the right decision or the wrong decision often would just, or not often, always would just get renamed the Fizdale decision. And that's what happened. We saw Robinson minimized all season. Fizdale was fired, and then the idiot that took over, Mike Miller, was doing the same things. And yes, Robinson had concerns with foul trouble, but also there was absolutely zero reason for Taj Gibson to be out there, for Bobby Portis to be playing center. Robinson's still by far the best of those players, and probably the best prospect on this team. That's including the player who was picked number 3 overall. So there was a lot of concerns. If the minutes went up, the block rate would go down. We knew that. But then he was even frozen out of the offense. No usage whatsoever. No minutes. It made no sense. Things did start to come around a little bit as we got towards the end of the season. Over his last 10 games, he played 26 minutes a night and averaged 12 and 9 with 2.5 blocks on an absolutely astonishing 79% shooting. Like, they are really good numbers. The free throws were bad. The usage was only 14%, but that is like, in a punt free throw build, which you've got to be considering with Mitchie, you're looking at a top 30, top 35 bloke. Now, is he ever going to be a 32-minute-a-night player? Maybe not. He shouldn't be playing like the 19, 20 minutes he was to begin this season. What he needs to be is a 26 to 27-minute-a-night player. And if he gets to 30, then the top 20 absolutely is in reach as a 13 and 10 with 2.5 to 3 blocks on 70% shooting. It's really a head-to-head type of a guy, but it just really bolsters those categories in huge, huge ways. And that has tremendous value. Now, the problem we had was foul rate, and there are people who will tell you that his fouling was worse this season. It wasn't. It went from 5.7 fouls per 36 down to 4.9, and then over those last 10 games down to 3.5 per 36. So 4.9 fouls per 36 minutes is not enough to restrict someone to 18 minutes, 21 minutes a night. It was poorly handled pretty much all season by this Knicks team. And Robinson still has an absolute shit ton of potential. He was the clear leader on this team in PIPM and in wins added, despite being 4th overall in total minutes. He had more wins added than Julius Randle, than RJ Barrett, and than Marcus Morris. Defensively, he was really, really strong. And offensively, he was okay when they actually worked out how best to use him. And that was a problem, is that they just wouldn't give him the ball. We saw Mr. Do a spin move, Julius Randle, just freezing him out and not using a bloke who's an absolutely devastating finisher. I think Robinson can be an absolute fantasy stud. Whether that's top 10, probably not. Top 20, maybe. But top 30, almost definitely. He's only 21 as well. So in the next 3 or 4 years, we have got a lot to look forward to with Robinson. He can be a DeAndre Jordan type of player, who, remember, was an excellent fantasy guy when you're in that punt free throw build. I think he can even be better because DeAndre was not a big shot blocker like Robinson was. I think you're looking more Hassan Whiteside type of fantasy impact, and Whiteside was a top 12, top 13 guy for a couple of seasons. Huge, huge upside. Now, is he a guy that, as a franchise, you go, this is our star we want to build around? No, not even close. Like, not even close to that. But from a fantasy point of view, there's a lot to like about Mitch. And if someone in your dynasty league has Mitch and they're buying into the fouls got worse, they didn't improve, you can't say out of foul trouble, they did improve. And they improved significantly, and I expect them to improve significantly again. And when we get a real head coach in there at some point, or maybe let's rephrase this. If we get a real head coach, a real front office, a real franchise, then Robinson can step forward. And because it's the Knicks, none of those things are guarantees. They're not even likely. But if they are, there is still a huge amount of potential with big Mitchie Robinson. Let's go on to the next bloke. And the next bloke is Rowan Barrett, RJ Barrett, the 3rd overall pick. It was rough, him coming into the league. And when I talked about dynasty rookie drafts, I had the top couple of guys. Obviously, Zion and Ja. And we had number 3. I'm going to put Barrett there by default. He's the 3rd pick in the draft. He's probably going to be the 3rd pick in dynasty drafts, but I never felt confident about it because his translations were shit. Well, those shit translations translated shitly. He was the 259th ranked player this season. He played 30 minutes a night. He averaged 14 and 5 with 2.5 assists. But the black hole nature of his game, the poor shooting from the field, 40%, from the line, 61%, from 3, 32%, it all happened. The low steals, it happened. The low blocks, it happened. The low 3-point volume, it also happened. All of the stuff we were worried about, or I was worried about coming out of college, eventuated right in front of us. And it was not good. So that leaves us to what can Barrett become? Now, it wasn't a disaster of a season. It wasn't a disaster at all. His PIPM will tell you it was. He was a negative 3.21, second worst on this team behind Dennis Smith, who we'll talk about soon. Wins added, absolute worst on this team. A negative wins player is not a good sign. But there is still some steps forward that were taken by him. The last game before we ended the season, or the season was postponed, he had 26, 5 and 4, 2 threes, 2 steals and a block on 64% and hit all 6 of his free throws. That's sexy. That is exciting. Will it continue? Probably not. Can you expect double-digit scoring from Barrett most nights? Yeah, I think you can. Can he be a strong rebounder? Yeah, but when you're playing with Randall and Portis and Gibson and Robinson, you're never going to be that player. So he can be a good rebounder. I don't think he's ever going to be put in that position. Can he be a point guard? No. And that was part of the thing coming out. Well, Barrett's not actually... I was suggesting I think Barrett should play the 3. And a lot of people, he's more of a 1-2. He's definitely not a 1. And as a 2, that rebounding skill is wasted. He's not a good shooter. So I don't know where he fits. I still think he's a 3. I'd like to see a little bit more of him played at that position. But there's still... again, this is first year. There's a lot that can improve. Again, I think the shooting numbers can improve, and it'd want to. His true shooting is 48%, which is horrible. The last 10 games or so, it went up to 53, which is an improvement. I think we should be looking at 53, 54 for him next season, which is a big step forward, and I expect a big improvement in his shooting numbers. And I think he's almost definitely going to crack the top 200 in fantasy next year. Will he ever be a guy that can be a top 40 player? Well, there's a lot there that needs to change. We need steals, we need threes, we need all percentages to improve. We need rebounds and assists to actually come up a level as well. And I think they can. I think he can be a 6 rebound, 4 assist player, 1.7 threes, 18 points. That is a pretty strong guy. So I'm still having some faith in him to be a top 90, top 80 guy, maybe in 3 or 4 years' time. But it's far from a guarantee. What's his best case scenario? I think best case, we can look at Barrett as maybe, I think best case is probably top 40, but there are so many negatives associated with, and in saying all that, Jaylen Brown had all of these same negatives. Poor shooting, poor free throws, no steals, no blocks, no rebounds, no assists, low 3-point volume. Brown had all those issues. In his 4th season, he corrected a lot of them. Can Barrett do the same thing with more passing acumen? Less vision, but more passing acumen? Maybe. So there's still that potential there. But to me, I think most likely he is never a top 50 player. And he has a couple of top 100 seasons, but most likely is going to be an Andrew Wigginsy type of guy who might put up 18 points per game, 20 points per game, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a top 100 player. If you want to be a top 100 player, you should get yourselves some Built Bars. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. You get these things, you crack them open, and you go, is it just going to be one of those standard protein bars that tastes like I'm eating sawdust off a bar floor? You know what I mean. You know the taste. No, that's not what they taste like. They taste like candy bars. unbelievable flavors, and low calories. Look at the mint brownie flavor. 110 calories only with 15 grams of protein. That is a ridiculous. I was at the supermarket yesterday and I had picked up some protein bars. 380 calories. That is a stupid amount for 20 grams of protein. Why am I getting that many calories in me? That is too many. Only 4 grams of sugar, 5 grams of carbs. There is 16 flavors, 8 nut-free and 8 nut-based flavors, or not nut-based, the ones that aren't nut-free. They are covered in 100% chocolate. And you can get $10 off your first order by going to BuiltBar.com and using the promo code LOCKEDON. I highly suggest you do it. These bars are fantastic. BuiltBar.com. Use that promo code LOCKEDON and get $10 off your first order. Next player, it is Frank Ntilikina, who profiles very similar to someone like a Dante Exum. Is you want them to be good, and I definitely want Frank to be good. You see them on the court and they play some good defense and they have a little flash and you go, oh, that's sexy. But is it ever going to be good for fantasy? And I think at this point, now we're only a couple of years in here with Frank, we're only 3 years in, but I think the evidence would tell us that no, it's probably not going to be good. He was a negative in PIPM, negative 1.14, but as usual, a big positive defensively. The one thing I can give him though, well, not one thing, we've got some other positives. He's a plus 2.3 on the season. Now compare that to Barrett, who was a minus 4.2. That is a rough-ass number for a guy that's starting. And the guys he was starting with, Randall, Marcus Morris, Mitch Robinson at times, Alfred Payton, they're all big pluses. And Barrett still somehow manages to be a big negative. Like, how do you play majority of your minutes with Randall? He's a plus 3.5 and a bad player, and you're a minus 4.2. That's a worry with Barrett. But Ntilikina, a plus 2.3. That's something that's solid enough. Now, what did he average this season? Not much. 6 points in 21 minutes. 2 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal on 39%. He did improve his free throws almost 10 percentage points, up to 86%. Only 32% from 3, and that's the problem. 32, 29, and 32 from 3 across his first 3 seasons. Usage is minuscule. He's a really good defender, but it doesn't necessarily generate into big defensive numbers. 1.6 steals per 36 is all right, but is he ever going to get enough minutes for that to make a difference? Now, I think he's been really misused by the Knicks over his career. Prioritizing guys like Trey Burke ahead of him makes no sense. But it's the Knicks, so you expect bullshit. But he's still not, in his best case scenario, Ntilikina, someone where I go, well, yeah, all he needs is 30 minutes and he's a top 60 guy. I don't think that's him. He might be a 10-point player with 1.2 threes, 3 rebounds and 4 assists with 1.4 steals. Like, as a point guard, that's not good enough. And then he needs to get those 30 minutes in the first place. And I think we're a long way away from that. So while I think Frank has been misused, I know Frank is still young. He's not even 22. He plays some very good defense, some of the best point guard defense in the NBA. But unlike someone like Chris Dunn, who's also one of the best defensive point guards in the NBA, Dunn generates steals. Dunn gets some assists. Frank goes out there and doesn't do those things at anywhere near the same level. So if the over-under is, will he ever be a top 100 player? You take the under, and by under I mean he never will be a top 100 player. And I think that's where we look at. Now, this team desperately needs a point guard. There's a ton of point guards in this draft. LaMelo Ball, Killian Hayes. They should be looking at these sort of players to come in and be their starting point guard. And that's going to mean not good things for Frank. I worry that the positive flashes we see from Frank will never be fully realized. Very similar to Exum. And that's a concern. But I'm not completely out on him. I'm pretty bloody close to it, though. Unfortunately, he's just too passive offensively, the shooting's too rough, he doesn't get opportunities, and the defense doesn't translate into numbers. Not good. Let's talk about Darnell Dodson, who, again, I think was a little bit misused this season. That is the theme of the Knicks. Misused. I thought he put up some okay performances, even as a rookie. He was able to score well. This season, Dodson only played 17 minutes a night, hit 1.2 threes at 36%. He does nothing else. That's the problem. 7 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, half a steal. Didn't shoot well from the free throw line. There's some real worries about what his overall game is. Now, last season was trending in the right direction. Almost 2 threes a game, 27 minutes, 11 points. Look, that is a serviceable enough fantasy player for deeper leagues. It went backwards because Reggie Bullock and Wayne Ellington were getting minutes. I don't know why, but they were. He's basically a neutral on-off player. Dodson is. He was a big negative PIPM-wise in offense and defense, And while there is still intrigue about his ability as a shooter, that's all he should be considered as, is a streaming option for three-pointers, and best case scenario, he has a year where he hits 2 triples. There's just not enough there for me to really get excited about Dotson. I don't know what else he's doing outside of shooting, and the shooting's not at a Joe Harris 45% level to make you go, well, here's a guy I want to hitch my wagon to. It's 36, 37%, which is all right, but when that's your thing, that's your one club in the bag, and you're doing it at an average level, then your future in the NBA feels a little bit cloudy at this point. Let's go on to the next bloke. What a disaster this guy's been. Dennis Smith Jr. Now, he had some rough things happen this year. A death of a parent, I believe it was, that did derail his season. He played only 34 games. He's had injuries, had a concussion towards the end of the season that kept him out as well. It wasn't good. Now, you come in, the prize acquisition in the Porzingis trade, and never gets a chance to play. He started 3 games this year. They weren't good games. He had a couple of okay performances, a 15-7-5 game with 7 steals in February. That came out of nowhere in a start, fantastic, and then back to the bench and did nothing. Now, Alfred Payton, who's got no real upside future, is starting over you. Smith's PIPM was a disaster, negative 3.92, mainly offensively. He is a guy that, look, I'm going to be honest, that when this draft was on, I thought he was the 3rd best player in this draft. He obviously isn't, because he's been trash pretty much his entire NBA career, or all of his NBA career. A couple of flashes, and then your pre-draft prior evaluation goes, oh, maybe Smith's figuring it out. He's not, but maybe he is. 34% from the field, 51% from the line, 29.6% from 3. They are all disastrous numbers. 6.6 assists per 36, gross. 1.9 steals. Now, that's encouraging. And it's where, again, I compare it to Ntilikina, who you guys, defensive guy. Ntilikina's steals per 36 was lower than that. And you don't look at Smith as a defensive player. Low 3-point volume, half a 3 a game. Like, what the hell is going on with this guy? 25% 3-point attempt rate, true shooting under 40 on 25% usage. It's not good, like not even close at this stage. And again, they shouldn't be going, well, we just want to see what Smith can provide us. You shouldn't want to see that. I think we are out on him. He's only 22, so there's a couple of years to go. Could he have an Emmanuel Mudiay type resurrection at some point? Perhaps. But I was way off on evaluating Smith. Off-court concerns, his wood slanging, maybe he's getting in the way of his actual NBA ability. I was way off on him, got that one supremely wrong, and I'm out. I don't see it turning around. You are much better trying to find another point guard there and not relying upon Smith to do it. So when we're looking at his value in dynasty leagues, it's low. Now, but in saying this still, his first 2 seasons, he played 29.7 and 28.5 minutes, and was basically a top 150 player, despite being bad. So if anything actually ever clicked, and he played 30 minutes, and then he shot at an average level, he'd be a top 100, top 120 player. There is that ability there. He can get assists, he can rebound, he can get some steals, he can hit some... Look, it's all there. It's there. It's tantalizing. But he got worse as a free throw shooter. The shooting fell off. It was bad. Is that Knicks making him bad? Is it him making them bad? Combination of both. I'm not having that faith in him. Speaking of faith, we will in a second, but now it's time to tell you about today's sponsor, and that is Blinkist, one of the most useful apps that you can find on your phone, the ultimate life hack. It is a secret weapon for learning and cramming as much information into your brain while we're sitting at home with, hey, we're looking for things to do. Why don't we learn stuff? Why don't we better ourselves? And Blinkist is a great way of doing that. It's unique. It works on your phone, on your tablet, on your browser, taking the best key takeaways, the need-to-know information from thousands of non-fiction books and condenses them down into just 15 minutes that you can read or listen to. That's it, 15 minutes. You get a fat-ass 400-page book. No, Blinkist goes, don't worry about that. Here's what you need to know. 15 minutes, bang, you're smarter. Like, what more could you ask for than Blinkist? You can get these books, Sea Stories, My Life in Special Operations by William H. McRaven, top tier name. How Champions Think in Sports and Life by Dr. Bob Rotella and Bob Cullen, the Bobs. Get those books, condensed, 15 minutes, stick it in your earphones, quick read, and you have got those points and you come out of it a smarter, more educated, and more well-rounded person. So, with Blinkist, unlimited access to read or listen to a massive library of condensed non-fiction books, all the books you want, all for one low price. And right now, for a limited time, Blinkist has a special offer just for our audience. Go to Blinkist.com/NBA, try for free for 7 days, and save 25% off your new subscription. That's Blinkist, Blinkist, Blinkist.com/NBA to start your free 7-day trial, and you'll also save 25% off, but only when you sign up at Blinkist.com/NBA. I know you've been waiting. The Fort, Kevin Knox, here we go. Is this bloke the worst player in the NBA? Smarter people than me have said yes. I also say yes. He's horrible. Did he get better this season? Maybe. But also, the Knicks are trash. The organization is trash. They played him 29. Now, the way they handled him last year was a joke. It was horrible. I think he could be... Look, I didn't like him coming out. I didn't like him as a prospect. I didn't like him as a fantasy asset. But the Knicks made him worse than that. Because, and if you remember back to the start of his rookie season, Kevin, we're going to start him. Look, he's had a rough preseason, but it's important that we start him. 2 days go by. Actually, Lance Thomas is going to start. Cool. In and out of the lineup. Horrible shooting. And this year, he goes from playing 29 minutes a night, really bad as a rookie. Yes, he was like 19 years of age, but really bad. Well, you know what? We're competing for nothing. So now, Kev, you're going to take a back seat. So Wayne Ellington, Marcus Morris, Reggie Bullock, Julius Randle, Bobby Portis, Taj Gibson. So all these old numbnuts come in and take away developmental time. Now, he shouldn't just be gifted developmental minutes. He was shitful last year. Dicked around, but he was shitful. And then the usage of him this year is horrible. He has a true shooting of 47%. That is worse than as a rookie. 65 from the line. Yuck. 36 from the field. 33% from three. Yeah, not bad. 34% from three last year. 3-point volume, low. Like rebounds, non-existent. Steals, forget about it. Blocks, what are those? Assists, good on ya. He does nothing. What does he do that's good? Can he defend? No. Can he shoot? No. Can he pass? No. I just think he's bad. But am I giving up on Kevin Knox? Well, I gave up before he started, but am I giving up on him? No. He's 20 years of age. This third season that's coming up next season, that is it for me. He gets no leeway after that. He has just been atrocious his entire career. His PIPM of negative 2.89 and negative wins added is probably flattering from what we've seen so far. And even if he does become a solid enough player who looks the part, he's athletic. He looks like Aaron Gordon. Can he shoot? He's got a smooth stroke. Doesn't go in, but he's got a smooth stroke. Can that ever turn around? Should they give him more minutes? They should at least try it. But even if everything comes together and he becomes a serviceable NBA player, if he plays 29 minutes a night, he's still not going to be a good fantasy player because he doesn't get rebounds, assists, steals, or blocks, or shoot good volume, or get to the line, or shoot good free throws. So he doesn't do any of those things well. He might come out and have a season where he averages 16 points, and you go, ooh, Kevin Knox. And he's a 160th ranked player. That is a concern with so many of these guys. RJ Barrett's another one. Do they do enough in other areas, or do they take away too much in other categories? And Knox absolutely is one of those. 370th ranked player this season. That is, for the uninitiated amongst you, rough as shit. He was 280th last year, despite playing 29 minutes per game. Somehow had a worse rookie season fantasy ranking-wise than RJ Barrett, who couldn't even crack the top 250 this season. So yeah, I'm not putting faith in Knoxy at all in the Fort. Let's go on to the next bloke. Of course, this guy did used to be better than Luka Doncic, but now he can't even get a minute on the New York Knicks team, and that is Alonso Tree. He's aged 24 already. 12 minutes a game, 7 points. Now, he had some moments last season where, again, he's a guy that you get on highlights and you go, wow, look at this. Trier took that bloke off the dribble. What an ISO scoring machine. He's shit in a team concept, though. Passing, no. Defense, no. Shot selection, bad. If we're playing one-on-one, and one mixtape style basketball, maybe Trier's the guy you pick. For an NBA scheme, no. I still think they should have tried to use him a little bit more to see what he could give. But I've got no problem with them minimizing his minutes because he's not that good. He has significant concerns with his ability to play in a team construct. His defense is an absolute disaster. And even from a fantasy point of view, what is he going to do apart from score in volume? And when he does score in volume, will that come at the expense of the team doing anything good? And will any other numbers come with it? The answer to all those pressing questions is no. He can't do anything, I don't think. He is not someone where I go, he should be a part of a core. He had some... Again, he's a guy that you do see people talking about. Man, Trio was so good for us last year. He actually wasn't, but he went out there and had a couple of highlight-type games on a terrible team, and the ball went in a few times, and he went, oh, that 20 points from Trio, that's pretty exciting. And I agree, that can be exciting. But is it winning basketball? God, no. I can't ever see him being a part of winning basketball or an good on-court player. There's some off-court concerns with him as well. Suspended, kicked out of Arizona. Off-court concerns I've heard whispers of even this season in New York. Hasn't really done anything at all. He had 22 points in Game 2 this year, and then was out of the rotation 2 games later. He had numerous 20-point games last year. He had a 29-pointer against the Kings in the season before. He had 24 points early in the season. He's had a few 20-point games. But again, it doesn't necessarily lead to winning. He could be a Tony Roten type, that if for some reason he's in a spot where he's getting all the minutes, the numbers will come, he'll score, he'll have an occasional big assist game, he'll hit a lot of threes, and that can be useful. But when we're looking long-term, when we're looking at players who can push into a 6-7 year solid NBA career, he's not the name that comes up to me. I'm very interested in this bloke, though. Now, we haven't seen him in the NBA at all, really. Brazdeikis, 9 games, 6 minutes, 2 points, 27% shooting. That's bad. It's not good. He's played 53 minutes in total. Not good. But I liked what I saw from him in Summer League. I have liked what he's done in the G League. 21 points per game in 34 minutes. Shooting 34% from 3 on almost 6 attempts. 7 boards, 3 assists. Don't like the 69% free throw shooting. Wrong button.
Giggity.
But there's enough there where I go, is he better than Kevin Knox already? Probably. Would I like to see him get opportunities behind Randall and see what he can do as a power forward? He's only 6'6", 6'7", maybe more as a small forward ahead of Knox. I think there's enough there to at least consider him as someone that you might invest in at a very, very cheap price in a dynasty league. I think he can be a solid rotation player who can score okay, who can rebound at a strong enough level, and can hit some threes. Can he develop into a starter? I wouldn't rule it out for Brazdeikis. I don't think it's a guarantee or even a great bet, but there's a possibility of it, and I think that is at least something worth marginally investing in. So, that is our look at the New York Knicks dynasty-wise. Tomorrow, I'll be back with a scouting video on Anthony Edwards, Goose, out of Georgia. So we'll check that out. I've done LaMelo Ball, Killian Hayes, and Obi Toppin already, and Anthony Edwards will be coming tomorrow. Don't forget, subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and on YouTube. Give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of my takes on the Knicks players in the comments below, and don't forget to check out today's episode of Hollinger and Duncan on the Locked On Podcast Network. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.